Thursday, episode 23. I'm still really impressed that we've found a bit of a flow with these. I definitely think the perfectionists in us ruin so much of what's possible by trying to fixate on getting it perfect or finishing it exactly as is. And as I get further and further into this game, I just realize so much more how speed and execution is a certain... Again, it's hard because there's nuance, right? Like some things take time. But in terms of testing ideas and content and getting that feedback, you get to put out multiple things. I think that was something that always drew me when I did go down into the Twitter sphere and got pulled over into that platform. I still remember only thinking that it was like politics and all this sort of stuff. And it's amazing how, again, even those limiting beliefs of, oh, I won't touch that platform. TikTok is still the only one I have no interest in going near. It's too similar to Instagram in that sense with the videos, and it's banned in Hong Kong. And so it was never one that I felt the need. It's too quick for me. It's far too quick, far too brainless, far too mindless, it's just a different game. At least with Instagram, I still feel like there's the true photographers and creatives and artists that are putting together beautiful, 30-second things or reels that are fitting in such a beautiful way. That's something I actually loved finding Sarah Snow's work. I don't know if you guys know her over there. She was the big brains behind a lot of the personal brands that went viral back in the day or grew really, really big, like Lewis Howes, that type of caliber of profile. She would be working with them for their social media content. And I mean, she put a spanner in my belief about having to post every day, and that the volume of posts meant, again, it depends what sequence you're in or what phase you're in or where you're at with certain things. But her ethos and what she was teaching her clients was one carefully crafted post a week does more for you than just churning out crap. And again, I do feel like there's that nuance in there where it's like, you don't want to be churning out crap for the sake of crap, because that then only brings back crap. But you also can't get stuck in the little perfectionist trap where nothing ever gets shipped, because then you're just self-marinating, which doesn't help anybody. You'd have the best ideas and nobody knows about them, or you don't even know if the way that you're talking about them is the way that people are receiving them correctly in order to become clients or in order to get excited about that. The rules are, there ain't no rules. Like, this is what I keep coming back to. And it was Tom Nosky when I was in his Time to Build community and cohort. His ethos was 70%, because he's a filmmaker and an editor, and even he found himself getting into that trap in terms of shooting things and then spending hours editing and then ruminating over the edits instead of shipping it. And his rule for himself was 70%. If I'm 70% happy with it, it is done, it is finished, it is out the door, and it's moving on to the next thing. I think that's a good mindset to adapt when you start going into this, and realizing that, again, perfect for who? I've had the pleasure of working with clients who have built their audience and built their profiles to over 300,000 followers, 800,000 followers, and it's hilarious to watch the back end and be able to see the front end and to see the thought process behind the back end. Because obviously when you're in the audience, everything that the person is putting out, that's content, but you don't know how long they've been sitting with it or ruminating or planning or, playing with the copy or playing with the graphics or videoing or whatever it is. You don't actually know how long it's taken them to do everything. And I just remember there being a few phases last year, particularly, especially around the summer when the algorithms were just changing so much. The biggest thing that they noticed, both of them noticed immediately, was just their general drop in reach. So with an audience that size, whenever they were posting, it just wasn't getting out to that many people. When you think about how many people should be in their audience, again, you can't negate like bot accounts that have come through, or profiles that are no longer being used, that are still following you, that haven't unfollowed you. So like all of these things kind of come into play. But I can only imagine how much of a mind that is when you're seeing these big numbers and you're posting things, and then it's like what you're expecting to come back on the other side. Like it's never just a given. And both of them last summer at a certain point, just when we got on one of our calls, they're like, I give up, I don't know. It's like the carousels and the things that I plan and I take time and I put thought into, they just coast. And then the thing that I put up as a last minute thought that took me 5 minutes and I just posted then suddenly takes off. And I was just laughing with the both of them, and it just makes me laugh because I think we almost have to, especially now with how quick things are moving. I see companies or personal brands or anything like that having to take that sort of and both approach where if you know your shit and you know what you're doing and you're a professional in what you do, you have foundations, you have principles, you have evergreen content that you can post about that will be useful at any given time that somebody comes onto your profile. And it's the pieces of information that you want your clients to be educated on before they come, and or to make them realize that you know what you're talking about, and to make them feel like, okay, this is the person for me because they've articulated it in a way that I understand. So now that's where the sales sort of start to become a hook, line, sinker lineup, right? It's the right offer at the right time for the right person, and it's a no-brainer. That's the no-brainer offers. But anything that you're doing is a no-brainer offer to the person that desperately needs it. And now it's how do you communicate that consistently? But sort of going back into the and both thing, I feel like there's been this, we've gone way over onto one spectrum of needing things to be hyper polished to look professional, or to be a certain level of production in order to be considered professional. Or you get those things, I feel like I need to be wearing a suit, or I need to be putting on more makeup, or I need to be doing X, Y, and Z. And I think just having watched the landscape over the last, well, since I was 18, I've been loving this game of creating on these platforms and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't, and seeing how other people also contribute and build their craft and build their art. But I remember even as an agency, these platforms are making it harder and harder and harder to outsource the work for it to be on a schedule. They want to bring people back into the apps and using the apps, because the more you can batch produce and schedule, the further away you are from the app, right? I think these many chat automations, everything, like there are certain things that are really, really, really good, but then there are also certain things, if you haven't set them up correctly, like it's such a mass automated touch point that you can completely lose the trust of your audience if it glitches, or if it's wrong, or if it's, I don't know. It's very interesting, the front end and back end, what people decide to outsource first. I was talking about this to one of the guys running the gym as well. It's like outsourcing lead management or outsourcing engagement, or you see it on LinkedIn now. You've got Tim Denning, you've got quite a few of the big guys sort of going, what's happening to LinkedIn? What's happening to the audience? Because it's all been turned into automated responses for professionals, because they think that the engagement on the posts, well, it does. The engagement on the posts help boost the posts, but then when you're starting to force the engagement, you're boosting and inflating these numbers for what? Like, I think that's that gray area of these fine lines of vanity metrics, but then metrics where people will take you seriously, but then you also have to detach yourself from the fact that people will only take you seriously if you have a certain metric, instead of proving your value and your worth as the consultant or as the client or as the product. Like everything should be able to stand alone, I guess, in that sense. social media is a tool and a magnifying glass for the signal that you already currently hold. So if you're doing good with your clients, if you're doing good work, like, it really is a less of a step. The hardest part now is to then stop putting all these filters in front of all the shoulds, right? And I think, again, just bringing it back to these platforms sort of making it harder and harder. I think I've mentioned before about the reels. Like, reels had come out, the scheduling tools hadn't caught up. Clients want reels. It's all then suddenly day of, or, they're trying to do a lot more of the authentic content, which means they're doing talking head videos or little yaps and then sending them through, and they need to be going back up. I think the feedback loop, like, it's getting shorter. People remembered that when you were posting on a profile, it wasn't now in that sense. Whereas now, it's now. Like, I'm filming these. It's Thursday morning. I'm filming this. I'm uploading it. It's going out on Thursday. These are the thoughts that are happening in this day, not the thoughts that I've now planned and like pulled together to then post and for you to see next week. And I think that's something I still struggled with for a while in terms of my own flow of information. And even when I got to the point, that was 2 years ago after running all those AI business challenges, the AI 10-day build your brand and schedule. Because again, a lot of people don't, ideally, you're not spending all your time on these platforms. Like, ideally, these are a catalyst to you getting off these platforms so that you could be spending more time in your real life. But they do make it harder for you to, again, outsource. So, okay, I had two stories going at once. Let me take a sip of my tea and figure out where we're going to continue. Okay, the thread about the overproduction. Let's just finish that one. Everything's been overproduced, that now we're almost in the era of I don't believe you unless you can say it straight on camera. And this is why that Jessie Jean chick, holy crap, I mean, she did her 1.2 million launch. She got on the news. She got on the morning show. Like, yeah, national news. Like, it made national news, what she did, the challenge that she did. But she's also tapped into the fact that this skill set, it's funny. I have mixed feelings about her thing, because at one end my mind goes, yeah, but if you do what your audience wants to do, then you're stuck doing that forever. But I don't think she's. I think she's solid enough now in what she's done that she was clever enough to follow what the audience was wanting, enough for her to build something off the back of what she'd done with her digital product to help others then do that bit for themselves. But then in and of itself, as she was going through that process, she realized that the actual skill set was creating these talking head videos that were captivating enough within a 30-second framework, or within that, the attention deficit that, oh no, my storage is running out, so I'm going to make this quick and tack it on to the end of the other one. Oh, I was talking about Jessie, and just, again, I don't advise usually for clients to just always follow what the audience is doing, but I'm feeling like she's not like that kind of case where she's going to wake up and suddenly go, oh, my audience is taking me over there. I think she's just genuinely found she stepped back and realized that the skill of the video stuff was what more people were needing. And I think even having Rachel Bell having recently created a talk on camera yap challenge that she was selling for like 300 and something US dollars, and she got like 50, 60, 70 people into that. No, she got like 300 something people into that. And so by Jessie then creating her own version of that, with the nature of how viral her stuff went, because of how cool, calm, and collected she's managed to pull everything together, she got thousands of people. And now this is the crazy thing that, some of the rooms I've stepped in over the last couple of years, especially like with Shoshana Raven and that side of the mentorship and coaching world, like that chick this year made millions of dollars in her $33 for a month thing, her Money March challenge. because she had 3,000 people into it. And then those people upgraded to VIP in the back end. Those great people upgraded into her actual one-on-one in the back end. And so sometimes on the front end, it's smaller things that then lead to bigger sales on the back. But I guess where I'm going with content with that for Jessie is usually creators tend to follow their audience, and then they get stuck in a place where their audience is actually not buying from them, not doing anything from them, not actually useful to them. It's just the vanity metrics that they have been following. Whereas Jessie's done it with an actual product and a sale, which means people have put their money where their mouth is and said, I want this service. And not just one, not just a lot of people. A lot of people. And even she said herself, she may not run it again. So who knows? But I think it's that awareness of what it is that you're doing, but being able to play some of these games and be like, well, why not follow what's going on? Why not have enough of a flow? But allowing it then not to turn into your entire new identity. I don't know. There's nuance to all of it, but all these games, I think, if you're able to fully committed to the process, fully detached from the outcome, she allowed it to take on a form of itself that still allowed her to bring her own creativity through it. I mean, looking at the stories now of her actually going through the challenge, I think they're on day 16 or something now. The visuals, the videos, like the production side of it, like this is clearly not her first rodeo, and it's like everything she's done in her life has built up to this. And she was flipping furniture to get an extra couple of whatever for income for the house as a mom to support the family. And then the fact that this has turned into what it's turned into, like she now has carte blanche to build whatever it is she wants from that. And I think that's what people don't realize is the power of these personal brands, and that you're allowed to make these pivot points. I think there's, yeah, different with companies. You've got your structure, you've got your things. Yeah. I don't know. I got thrown off my camera storage, said it was full, and I'm going to need to sort that out. Because starting at this job, I'm taking lots of photos of everybody. I had my assessment yesterday. My client signed up. I've got a first client, my first PT client. We start next week. I'm really excited. Yeah, back on the gym floor in front of people. Again, it was nice to see where my training is also now got to and the level that it's got to. Because it's one thing sitting here talking to a camera with nobody around and not in front of everybody and with no pressure on myself for it to make any sense. But to then be in front of people and to take on clients where you are having to stand your ground, say your opinions, especially in the coaching space. Like it's a very interesting relationship because they come to you as the professional, but at the end of the day as well, they are the client. But I can't force people to do anything. But as a good coach, I remind them what their goals are, what their motivations are, and then I make it as fun as possible along the way. Because honestly, that you get better results quicker when you find ways to allow yourself to have fun along the journey. There was even a study that came out. Now, don't quote me on this, and I'd love to look more into the research, but it came out in terms of food and obviously calories in, calories out. There's calculations. The quality of the nutrients, yes, best to have whole foods and less processed food, but there's calorie in, calories out in terms of putting on weight and losing weight. But there was an article that came out that I was fascinated about that was talking about the guilt that you feel when you're eating processed foods, and that somebody that feels really guilty about eating, say, just having an ice cream for dessert, they will hold on to that weight a lot more than somebody that doesn't feel guilty about it and is still moving things through their body. And I think that just kind of touches on another element of how little we know about how we all function, and that moving is such a big part of processing through everything. Like even if you are, because I still remember when I was at the peak of my fitness, or I'd done one of these 12 weeks like conditioning transformations, and it had clocked where all my extra calories were coming in from, why I was getting annoyed that I wasn't looking a certain way, but I hadn't realized that I was drinking half of them through lattes, and that's milk, right? So that's extra calories. That's way more calories than just say having a black coffee or whatever. But I don't like black coffee. I like it with milk, so I just ration my coffee. But yeah, I think Tim Ferriss's quote always comes into my head when we do this. It's like at any given point, you got to figure out where your level of your training is and test it. And he said, as soon as you start to feel like you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. Because we give zero shits as to who you think you've become, and they've known you your entire life. So they will poke at you in ways that nobody else can when you present yourself to society in like a new, confident and, moving forward person. And I think it's that with some of the online stuff. You can forget sometimes the in-person elements and the nuance that comes, and it's just, yeah, it's just a different thing. And nothing's ever perfect. I think just tying it back into that perfection route, I think school school jolted that with us with the grades, with it needing to be perfect, with the presentation having to be top notch, with all of that sort of stuff. It's like when you come out of it, we're not in school anymore. Finding your creative flow, finding your perfect within all of this is so hard because, as soon as we go into the marketing, we immediately going, okay, so what can I say to do that? And I think the script just has to be completely flipped on its head 180. It's like, how much fun can you have? How much good can you do with your clients? And then how do you talk about that online in pieces so that the right people just find you? It's not a case of, will you be my friend? Come pick me. It's a case of, no, I know what I'm doing. I know I'm really good at it. I have clients to prove that. The work that I do is good. I'm already behind the scenes reaching out to new people and operating something that I love, that fuels me, that fuels others, that helps people, that, like that. What is that? And then your social media and your content is a signal to that. I just love the extra element of the personal branding side because you are able to talk about different elements that build up the person. Yes, you need to talk about like what it is who you serve, what your offer, what your offers are, so that people know what you sell and know where to find you, or at least have them very clear in the bios, so that when they land on a piece and they get curious, they go click it, and it's like, oh, very straightforward, very clear. I know what I'm here to do. But mind, movement, media, the three pillars. As a personal brand, as a human being, you are allowed to talk about anything that has built up your mental capacity to get you where you are, your viewpoints, how you see it. Why have you brought this into fruition? Why do you care about what it is that you care about? And then the movement part, how have you been taking care of yourself in order to function through, and navigate the business realm or building something for yourself? Because if you have created anything in this life, you have busted through those things. You have gone through those processes of, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? But idea into creation, like it comes through, and you've transmuted it into something in real life. And that's a skill set that not a lot of people know how to do. So you get to talk about that. And you get to talk about how it came into fruition. And then, yeah, the media, I guess, it's the soul creation, it's the creativity, it's the soul health. That's what I'm calling it now. Mental health, physical health, soul health. That seems to be the little trifecta that pulls it together. And by putting that perfectionist on you and stopping yourself from allowing that flow of creativity and allowing yourself through the messy reps to get it better, 70% out the door. Allow it to be good enough to start putting it into society, because your first year of posting, your first 5 years of posting, it might not land. But in order to get it to where you want it to be, we need to be building on the breadcrumbs from before and zooming out and realizing that over time this is your big digital portfolio. Like, I get very proud now actually scrolling through the different sections of my Instagram, and why I just refuse to put a new one up, because it's proof of my journey. Like, if you scroll all the way back down, the first photo of my Instagram is me in a fairy outfit doing my modeling stuff. And I've got my modeling phases, I've got my com cards, my decks, all of that. I've got the alcohol industry, I've got the craziness that was that. And then it moves into the fitness, the sport, and my entire spine journey has been documented. I like having those touch points where I can go back in the page and go, yeah, we did this, we've been posting for this long. But getting it out and finding your art. And it's only because I've been going through that practice for so long, and actually only realizing now that I genuinely have never cared about what other people think. When I come to talking about my story, for some reason it was only as soon as I put offers on it that I started to care, even though the things that you're putting offers on you do care about, because you've got to the point where you've wanted to turn it into something and help people with it. So you care about it enough to bring it into this kind of, yeah. Don't let perfection keep you stuck. Don't let it keep you stuck. I wonder if there is a thread through any of this, which I'm sure there will be. I'm going to stick these two together, and that's as far as my editing goes with these. Add them together, pop a cover photo on, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Friday. We made another week. That's week 5.